So I'm just going to give a short talk about an old teaching in Zen that there are basically three fruits of practice, they say. And the first of these is developing our present moment awareness, our ability to stay present and centered, grounded and aware, clearly aware. There's a quality of a sort of calm, clear awareness that we all know, but meditation practice can help us have it more consistently. And in the process of developing that, we're also learning to be more aware of our emotional reactions that come up, and we can be less driven by them as time goes on. That's one of the, great fruits of this kind of practice, and it's probably one of the primary reasons why a lot of us come into it. As we get more of this clear awareness, we can concentrate on work better, we can enjoy life more because we appreciate and notice things more. And when we're having a hard time, we can suffer less with it because we're more aware of it and can recognize it before we start acting out from it or just being overwhelmed by it, so to speak. Okay, so there's a lot, that's a whole zone of meditation practice. It's probably, 95% of the modern mindfulness movement is about that first fruit, one way or another. Another note on it would be that it really is about being more present, that we are able to give our attention more wholeheartedly to what is happening here and now, as opposed to being pulled away from it by other dynamics in the psyche. And we're just able to be here, feel what it's like to be here now, in the famous phrase. Yeah. Okay, so that's fruit one. And so far in these talks, that's mostly what we've been focused on. But I want to introduce today fruit number two in this traditional view. And that is known in the Zen tradition as kensho. Kensho is a sudden experience that the word translates as seeing our original nature, or seeing the original nature. In other words, it's a sudden revelatory moment, you could say, where we experience this moment in a different kind of way. The moment's the same, the contents of the moment are the same, but we're seeing them, experiencing them in a really different way. What is that different way like? Well, it's said to have three possible characteristics. The first, and in a way the most likely one for us to glimpse, is that somehow everything's one. There's all this multiplicity of phenomena arising all the time, and they all seem to be different. For example, right now I'm looking at a computer screen and I'm aware of a pot with two little flowers in it right next to it, here, by the way. And so clearly the flowers and the computer are not the same. And yet, in kensho, we discover that there's another level, another dimension of experience going on always, right now, where in fact they are one. Now, you can't really, logically argue this, but when you see this, you know it's true. It's not some mystical schmystical business. It's an aspect of reality. There really is a dimension, a level of our real experience that unites everything. And, probably over the centuries and millennia, that experiencing that has tended to get parked in the zone of religion and spirituality. But it actually doesn't have to be, because it's an aspect of reality. And it's just that it's not what we normally, that's not the way we normally see things, but it's real. Now, the second sort of facet of kensho can be what we call, in the Buddhist terminology, shunyata, or emptiness. Is seeing that myself just has never existed the way I thought it had. It's been a phenomenon arising, but it hasn't been the thing, the entity that I felt it to be. Or sometimes we can see that the world before us is intrinsically insubstantial. You know, it doesn't deny that this wall is here and I can knock on it and it makes this sound. And yet at the same time, there's another level on which this entire experience is insubstantial. Now, so that's seeing emptiness. It's a little different. It's related to seeing oneness, but it's a sort of slightly different experience. And the third aspect that we can see is that in a way, it's because of those two, that in a way, any object, any phenomenon is infinite. It's just boundless. It doesn't have a fixed size at all. Like, you know, I'm looking at these flowers and, you know, they are boundless. Well, you say, no, Henry, they're not. They're 2 inches in diameter, 1.5 inches in diameter. And I said, well, yes, but there's another level to our experience of this very moment where it doesn't matter that they're 2 inches in diameter, they're still infinite. And you know, you can learn through this training to see that, to see it. And it doesn't deny that they're, you know, this one is 3 inches long. Fine. At the same time, it's boundless. So this is this Zen seeing, deep awakened seeing, doesn't deny that things are as they are. It's seeing in this moment, there's more, basically more dimensions to it that we can experience. It's a most powerful, beautiful, life-changing thing, usually, to have this kind of experience of kensho, because it shows us that we're completely at home in the universe and can't not be. It typically brings up, if we're in a good context, like a practice environment, it typically brings up a lot of joy, a lot of sense of belovedness, a sort of all-pervading love. It's not unusual to have a taste of that. You don't have to, but it's not unusual to. And it's a real homecoming. It's the most profound homecoming. Even though, you know, when you hear someone talking about it, it might sound pretty damn weird and not like home at all. But actually, when you experience it, it does feel weirdly home-like and a great sense of belonging, because you've discovered that you're sort of part of it all. There's no separation. Okay, and then that's the second fruit, and then the third fruit, which I won't say much about now, but it's basically, how do you have an experience like that and learn to live from it, rather than it just be a sudden thing that gradually fades? How can it become kind of integrated into our actual ordinary daily life, which is an ongoing process, and maybe the most beautiful aspect of Zen training is that third fruit. But they're all good, and you don't have to be interested in all three of them at all. Usually we start practicing because we're interested in one of them, you know. And for some, that might be actually the second, which we then have to just sort of put on the shelf and do our practice. But for many, it's the first, you know, quite rightly. And whichever you may feel sort of resonates with you at some time, it may change. And whichever you feel is your motivation for practice, it's actually best to note what that is and then, in a way, forget about it and just do the practice. Because the practice, as a rule, doesn't sort of respond well, so to speak, to being in pursuit of something. It's fine to have a reason for practicing, you know, but having established that you're going to do it for that reason, forget the reason and just do the practice. And so that, you see what I mean? So we're not trying to get something from it. We are, but we forget about that. So when we're actually doing it, we're just doing it for this moment to be as it is, not to be trying to get whatever that goal is. See what I mean? We sort of, we shelve the goal. We got to have it or we probably wouldn't practice in the first place. But having that aspiration, we forget about it and just do the practice. Okay, that's the end of the talk. Thank you very much.